Welcome to Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Ben Mendez, joined by my co-host, Mr. Javier Perez. Today we're going to talk a little politics. So we have two candidates as our guests today. But before we go to our guests, I want to talk about the presidential race. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm very, very disappointed that Donald Trump is still in the lead in the Republican Party.
You know what, Ben? It just shows what the Republican Party has to offer. And that's scary. That's scary.
Well, when you have an ultimate Tea Partier, which I call Mr. Trump, I tell you, it's pretty scary to see him in the lead at this stage of the race.
And who's right behind him? Well, of course, I don't think at the end of the day it's not going to be Donald Trump or Ben Carson. I'd be very surprised. But it could be Ted Cruz.
That's
and I don't
scary.
know, that's even scarier.
That's very scary, yeah. Well, I don't know what's going to happen the next couple months, but somebody needs to step up their game.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it be the senator from Florida,
Rubio,
or somebody else, but having Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, come on, guys.
Man, I mean, I mean, that's the state of Republican affairs right now, man. And they want to know. I mean, they're so out of touch.
They are.
They're going to give this election away if they don't get somebody in there that can more middle of the road.
And honestly, I don't know if Hillary will do very well. I think we need a stronger candidate. I hope there's other candidates like Vice President Biden jump in, or some other candidates, so that we're going to have a real race.
Well, I think Biden pretty much has said no to that. I don't think he's going to get in after all. Because
of his son that died of brain cancer.
Yeah.
He has initiated a new cause, a fight against cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you never know. You might have Castro jump in. You just never know. You never know. I would love to see Mr. Castro, our HUD secretary, jump in the race. And I know there's talk about him being the vice presidential candidate if Hillary gets in and so forth. But why not he be the prime? Why does he have to be the sub?
Well, that's, boy, I tell you, I think that's a reach though, Ben.
Hey, Senator Ted Cruz was reach. Nobody thought he could win.
Yeah.
And yet, look at him.
Look at him now.
Look at him now. Exactly.
Yeah. That's true.
So anyway, let's talk local politics.
Okay.
As you know, we had a mayor's race.
Right.
And we had the hero ordinance. Okay. Now, the hero ordinance failed miserably, 2-1.
Yeah.
And the hero ordinance was supported by many, many candidates, including the mayoral candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have two mayoral candidates still here. We have Sylvester Turner and Bill King in the runoff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sylvester supported the hero ordinance. Bill King was against it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how that plays out in the runoff remains to be seen. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I tell you, it's. I think there's going to be a strong conservative surge in this election, and if more middle of the road voters don't turn out, I think the conservatives may take the mayor's seat. Yeah, I mean.
Well, to be honest with you, I am not sold by either candidate.
Yeah.
Okay. They both have their good points and they both have their bad points.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see some debates before we make a decision on who's the best candidate.
Have they even agreed to debate yet?
They did debate already.
Okay.
There's one debate that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there's going to be many more. But I'd really like to see what they're about.
I think you and the whole city of Houston would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, the mayor's race trickles down to the other races as well. There's city council race. We have Ms. Provost here. She's running for city council at large. And then we have our pastor, Mr. Williams, here. And he's running for HISD. So the mayor's race is going to have an impact citywide on all races, regardless of what the race is. Okay? And so it'd be interesting to hear from these candidates today their thoughts on what's going on in the political arena.
Absolutely. Just off the cuff here, Ben. Did you hear about the situation going on with Pancho Claus and the Thanksgiving parade?
No.
You haven't heard that? Well, apparently they will not let Pancho Claus in the parade because he did not get a $10,000 sponsor, and they want him to pay $10,000 to be in the parade. And from what I understand, if he pays $10,000, not only will they let him in the parade, they'll make sure he gets TV time. or
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
which and he goes, that just goes to show you that all this time, you know, they always said that, well, you know, it's just the luck of the draw whether you get on TV or not. That's not it. You know, if you don't pay the big money, you ain't getting on TV.
And I'm assuming you're talking about the HEB parade.
Exactly,
Okay.
HEB Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Okay. Now that's the first time I heard about that.
Yeah, it's been trending on Facebook all day today. They're going back and forth and trying to get the city councilman involved to let Pancho Claus, Richard Reyes in the parade. I mean, $10,000, man, that could buy a lot of toys for kids. He's been doing this for what, 25, 30 years.
They probably don't know what Pancho Claus does for the community.
Well, or they don't want to know.
Okay.
You know, I think that's more. I mean, everyone in the
East End.
Latino community, East End, North Side, knows what Pancho Claus is all about. It's a shame that he has to go, and you know, he has to do this every 5 years. From what I'm talking to Richard Reyes, they say every 5 years they kick him out, and then they'll get someone involved and they'll let him back in. But it's every 5 years this happens. So hopefully, you know, folks, hey, contact your city representatives and contact HEB, and let's get him in there. I mean, he does it totally. It's totally for charity. He's been getting kids Christmas presents for years, and then they put him through this stuff. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely insane when they can't get an icon of the community like Richard Reyes, Pancho Claus in there to raise more toys, get more toys, you know, for Christmas gifts for kids. Come on, people. My goodness.
A shame.
It is.
So let's get to Pastor Larry Williams. Larry is running for HISD. I'm assuming it's District 2.
That is correct.
And is this your first time running?
No, actually it's not. I've ran before 03, 07, and those two were dress rehearsals, but this time in 2015, it's the real deal.
So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Larry Williams. I'm a born and raised native Houstonian.
My condolences.
Come on, Ben.
It's okay.
No, you're from Dallas or something. My goodness.
I'm from McAllen.
I'm a graduate of Houston Independent School District schools. After graduating high school, I attended Prairie View A&M University.
Where did you go to high school?
Scarborough Senior High School. I'm a Scarborough graduate. Prairie View A&M University graduate, and then I attended graduate school in Atlanta, the Morehouse School of Religion Seminary School. I've been pastoring 20 years, and I've been preaching 28 years. I'm also a former school teacher in the Houston Independent School District. So the bulk of my adult life has been about education, has been about ministry, it's been about doing a lot of community work and trying to help our young people, being a voice for the voiceless, being a voice for the least, the lost, and the left out is what that's where my passions lie.
Well,
And Pastor Williams, so who's your opponent in that race?
My opponent is the board president, Rhonda Skilling Jones is my opponent.
Okay. What would you say is the big difference between both of you?
Well, first, the biggest difference is that I'm independent. I come with not a lot of strings attached, not a lot of baggage. When I get there, the person or the people that I owe that is those children, those babies, those students. I'm not in someone's hip pocket and that sort of thing, but I come for one reason only, and that's to improve student achievement and student performance for all kids.
Mm-hmm.
as you know, one of the big issues is the bond program.
Yes.
And we had a lot of money invested into these schools, and from hearsay, it appears that there's some monies that were short for the total bond program. Are you aware of these monies?
I'm aware of the fact that the monies are missing, absolutely.
Okay. So but as a candidate, what is your position on the bond program?
Well, as a candidate, in terms of missing bond money, that's a whole lot of money. My mother used to have a saying that, boy, money doesn't grow on trees. So that's a whole lot of money to be missing. And then, so I feel like we've had a lot of taxation without representation. When you say over $200 million of bond money missing, that could be money going into magnet programs. That can be money going into to help improve manipulative that kids need for mathematics, quality programs that our children need. Some of District 2 schools are some of the lowest performing schools in the Houston Independent School District. And then when we say we have $200 million of bond money missing, and they're asking for more money, that's problematic.
So which high schools are in your district?
Booker T. Washington is one of the high schools. Barbara Jordan Senior High, Wheatley Senior High, and Cashmere Senior High, which is, again, one of the very, very low-performing school. And in terms of principals, it's been a revolving door, no stability at that school. So
I'm not familiar with the demographics, but what percentage is Hispanic in your district, more or less?
From what we've looked at, I think the percentage is about 40% Hispanic in my district. Which
as far as population, or as far as what?
As far as population is concerned.
All right.
So,
how about voters?
Well, in voters, it looks like it's about 20% or so.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's significant.
Yeah, yes, it is.
So the Hispanic vote is a swing vote, basically.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, but we want to make an appeal to all students, white, brown, black. We don't see race. We see education. We see children. Certainly, I have some schools where it's real heavy populated in terms of Hispanics, and I want all of my Hispanic brothers and sisters to know that they're important to me, and that I'll fight tooth and nail on their behalf every day. We want to go out and fight on their behalf and make sure that they are properly represented, that their voices are heard in their communities and their neighborhoods as well.
Well, you know, Reverend, you know, I see what your passion is, but what is the change you would bring? What hasn't been happening in that district that you would change that you're going to do?
Good question. I think a good leader has to be a good listener. Mm-hmm. And one of the things with District 2 of HISD has been underrepresented for many years. We can't tell the people and the voters what they want to hear. We have to tell them what they need to know. We have to listen. I bring transparency, accountability. It's not enough to just come around election day. I want the people to know that I'm there fighting tooth and nail every day. I'm listening. Every voice counts. Every child counts. Every community counts. And I want to be that listening ear. I want to be a drum major for justice for the entire district, and bringing a common sense approach to fiscal matters. It's too much wasteful spending that's going on, and then the district will turn around and say, well, we have budgetary problems. Well, once I get elected, I'm able to get in and look under the hood. We want to take a common sense approach to spending money to make sure that every child has a right to an education.
I was watching the news the other day, and they were talking about disciplining the kids, the little ones, specifically the kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and they were showing some numbers of actual percentages of the people that were being disciplined. And a large number of those being disciplined were African American, especially the little kids were being sent home, Javier. They were being sent home at that age for whatever they were doing, okay? Now,
that's just insane. I mean, my goodness.
So, and there was a big discussion at the board level regarding disciplining the kids. What is your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think teachers have to be adequately trained and taught how to, and given in-service on how to deal with a disruptive student, how to keep children on task. I've been a classroom teacher. I know about keeping a child on task when they're trying to disrupt the educational process. As a teacher, very, very, very rare would I ever send a student out. And if the rare times that it happened, they know, oh, Mr. Williams, they must have done something horrible because you don't send students out. I think teachers have to have be equipped and have the kind of training on how to deal with a disruptive student because they can't learn anything by sitting in the principal's office or for hours at a time, missing several periods, or sitting at home because they were suspended or expelled. So the key is starting with that teacher who deals with that child every day, establishing that rapport, learning that child's behavior patterns, and doing all that they can to keep that child engaged in the classroom, and being consistent. Consistency is very important, as opposed to just writing a kid up and sending them out of the classroom.
Or sending them home.
Or sending them home. Absolutely. That starts with the proper in-service and training of teachers. And I think once we do that, we can cut down on the suspensions and being expelled and that sort of thing.
You know what, Pastor, also, I'd like your views. I know being in that district, you probably has one of the lowest retention rates of teachers. You probably get a lot of the new teachers in that district. How would you fight that, and what's the best way to try to turn that around?
I think teachers have a very, very, very hard job.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Most of my former colleagues, when I taught school, you went into education because for the love of education and teaching children. I think it goes back to training, equipping, in-servicing those teachers. I think having a better rapport, teachers and parents, administrators and parents, it's important that they have a working relationship. You know, when we were in school, I was talking about this the other day with someone. My parents would never tell you, if you were my teacher, come to the school and say what I wouldn't do. But you always had the green light to be firm with me if need be. And as a result of which, there are certain things that we wouldn't do, because we didn't go home and say, well, the teacher did this, that, and the other, and then the parent come down and want to give the teacher a very hard time. So I think the parents, the teachers, the administrators have to be on the same accord, have to be together. That statement is so true. It takes a village to raise a child. That's very important, that we're together, and it takes trying to get parents more involved, coming to the school, seeing what's going on a daily basis. Sometimes coming to that classroom, sitting there with your child for an hour or two, seeing what's going on in the classroom. That definitely can make a difference to see when you have a parent sitting in that classroom while instruction is going on.
And I agree with you. Some parents don't get involved in their child's education. I'm a former teacher as well. And sometimes it was very difficult to have a conference for the parent because they would never show up.
That's right.
And the ones that need to show up are really the ones you need to talk to.
Absolutely.
Right? On CNN, they had these awards that were given out for CNN stars or whatever they're called. And one of the stars was a principal. And she was being recognized because she had their teachers actually walk the kids home from elementary school. And it was a really bad neighborhood. I mean, when you looked at the film footage, and a lot of these homes were boarded up and so forth, and you saw people hanging out in the corners. And so it was a rough neighborhood. But to have actual teachers walking to the kids hand in hand, taking them home, meeting the parents, I thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
It made a big impact. And this school is in a rough neighborhood, and yet their scores don't show it. They have very good scores compared to other schools.
Right.
Yeah. So would you recognize something like that in your district? Would you promote something like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's very important. It cuts down on the divide between the school and the neighborhood, or the school and the parents. It keeps the parents, teachers, the community, you know, on one accord. They both know what's going on that day or what went on last week. And often kids realize then, well, they have to kind of be a little more honest to tell what's going on, because my parents are going to find out anyway, because they're visible at the school, and my teacher is taking me from the school into my community. And so that helps put them together in terms of exactly what's going on in the school.
And when you saw the footage, you see these teachers are walking, and all these kids are just walking with them. They're walking as a big group. Yeah. They like the fact that the teacher is walking them home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that says that the educator or the teacher is concerned enough to do what I think we have to do sometimes, to go beyond the call of duty to see that child gets home safe, and to establish that rapport with the parents, and let that child know that I care enough to walk with you every step of the way, and that sort of thing.
You know, Pastor William, what did you teach when you were in HIS? Were you in HIS?
When I taught school, I taught English language arts was my subject. One year I taught a self-contained 6th grade class, so I taught all subjects, but the bulk of my teaching was in the English language arts area.
My worst subject.
Why do we fail the language we speak? You know, it was tough on me too.
You know, I would be so paranoid if I had to read something in front of the classroom. Even in high school, I was very paranoid. I couldn't speak in front of a class or in front of a group, especially if they were grown-ups.
I tell you, now look at
kids, it was hard.
Now look at him. He has his own TV show in front of millions.
Nervous breakdown before I get up there and speak. But more power to you. English majors are rare. Yeah. There's not very many English majors in the university as well, as you know. He's, by the way, St. Thomas grad.
Okay.
St.
Yeah, we
Thomas
won't
High
take it
School.
against them.
University St. Thomas High School, Lady Guadalupe,
take it
just a few
against
blocks from here.
Yeah.
Catholic school education.
Yeah, so I went to school in the valley, in the Rio Grande Valley, and a little different, obviously. But when I started teaching here, I taught at Austin High School, and over here in the second ward.
Right.
And I learned a lot from the community. And one thing that was back then, I taught in '94 through '98. There was a lot of gangs. That seemed to be a big issue. I don't think it's as big as issue now, but it was a big issue. And some of the kids were afraid to go home, afraid to walk home. They would stay at school till their parents got off work to pick them up because they didn't want to go walk.
Right, right.
Yeah. So luckily we don't have those issues. Well, I say that, but I've been out of teaching for a long time. There might be some issues like that that I'm unaware of. Have you heard anything?
I have not heard a whole lot about it, but I'm sure that it's probably not as worse as it was at the time you were involved in the educational arena. But it's you don't hear about it as much, but I think it's out there to a certain extent. Yeah.
You know what? One of the things I'd like to know, Pastor.
Sure.
Being in the education field, knowing what you do now, is there anything that you would change as far as your approach to teaching from when you started to now? What would you change?
Based on what I do now?
Just based on what you do, right?
In terms of my work in the church?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I know, don't get me wrong, I understand what it takes to get this implemented, and I couldn't do this by myself as a school board trustee, but I think we absolutely need prayer back in school. I think that's the biggest thing. We took prayer out of school, and then came guns, knives, gangs, Columbine, mass shootings, all kinds of things that have happened as a result of prayer being taken out of schools. You know, I believe in supernatural overtones, if you will, and I believe everything that the Bible says. I believe in family values. We've taken family values out of our schools and some of our homes. But I'm a big proponent of family values and morals, values, ethics, training our young men to be young men and teaching them how to treat young ladies, teaching them how to have a good, strong work ethic, to make an honest day living, and treating our young ladies to understand that to be a young lady, to know how to be a good wife, a good mother. I'm a huge proponent of that. It makes strong families, which in turn makes strong communities.
So there was a big article in the paper about the wages that teachers were making. Now, our wages compared to other big cities, there's no comparison. If you look at Chicago, if you look at New York, obviously they're northern states.
Right.
But when you do a comparable study based on wages and where they're learning, cost of living, we don't compare. So your thoughts on pay raises, for one. If you give money to the teachers, you take away money from the kids. So what do you think about that?
I think we're going to have to pull out our small chisel and find a way to get our teachers' pay up to par without it being a detriment to children and their education. I'm a firm believer where there's a will, there's a way. I have a whole host of teacher friends. I hear their concerns. I hear their voices on a regular basis. I want to be an advocate for teachers as well. But I believe if we really take a common sense approach, is what I said earlier about 10 minutes ago, looking at the physical and budgetary matters, we can look at it in a very precise way how to cut some of the fat out of the budget and actually put money where it belongs, helping the teachers make a better wages without damaging education or our children's education at all, because that's ultimately what we all are part of the Houston Independent School District system, is to properly educate our young students.
I'm a firm believer in having high schools open at nighttime. There's some circumstances within families that don't allow our kids to go to school like normal kids, whether it be work related or maybe there's a single parent that has 6 kids and they need someone to take care of the kids in the morning so the parent can go to work. So I'm all for alternative types of schools, whether it be second shift, summer programs, or whatever it is, so that our kids can go to school. Now, there is a big push right now for magnet programs to do something similar to that in some of the schools. A perfect example is Austin High School. They have what I call a second shift high school, but that doesn't happen in other high schools.
Right.
Yeah. So I know there's a big push for parents that are single parents that would like to see that. Are you in favor of that?
Absolutely. I think it's important to structure the educational system where it's user-friendly. At the end of the day, the most important part is that they go to school in the morning or at night, but did you get a quality education that you can go out in society and be a productive member of society? I mean, 1 + 1 is 2 if you learn it in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night. So absolutely, I would be a proponent if it works, absolutely.
You know what, Ben? One of the things that I know the pastor knows, hopefully he gets elected. One of the main things on your plate after you get inaugurated is picking that new superintendent, or I think the process already started. What are your feelings? What should we be looking for? What should we be looking for? Anybody come to mind? Input from the community, input from parents, input from principals. How are we going to find a roadmap to pick a new superintendent?
I think input from the community is critical, and very, very critical and crucial. I think it's also important that each board member understands that our next superintendent, we should want one who's going to understand all communities, all cultures, someone who takes education very serious, and someone whose approach to the position of superintendent that it's more than just a title, it's more than just another job, but the very lives of our young people are at stake. Their education is at stake. And so it has to be someone who understands various cultures, various communities, who's willing to listen to the voice of the people, one who understands the importance of our educators, those who are in the foxhole, so to speak, on an everyday basis with the children, one who's going to be in support of our teachers as well, one who believes in transparency, one who understands how to deal with a multi-billion-dollar budget and that sort of thing. It's very important, and so that's something that we should be looking at in our next superintendent.
Well, our current superintendent has no diversity at the top levels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at all his top brass, very few sprinkles that look like us. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it's unfortunate. I mean, if you have a minority district, and that's
right.
what it is.
Absolutely.
It's a minority district, and you don't have minorities at the top brass, there's a problem there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the board is partially responsible for that because they ultimately are the one who interviews and hires and asks for terminations and that sort of thing. And so I think it's important to get this next election. It's important that we get it right this time. Again, the North Side has been, and particularly District 2, has been underrepresented for a long time. And so it's important that we get someone who understands basically what you just stated, and that diversity across the board, because it is a minority district, and that it's important to get other black and brown faces as well as white faces also.
So if we've run out of time, is there anything you want to say that we didn't cover?
Well, I like to say one of the things I like to state. I did mention the fact that I do believe in family values. I'm a huge proponent of that. We saw the HERO deal, Proposition 1. We saw it got voted down. The people spoke very loud on November 3rd. And I think it's important that we have someone sitting on the school board, just in case any funny business, you know how this stuff works, has a way of trying to work its way through the Houston Independent School District. I think it's important that we have someone on board who will fight that tooth and nail.
Fight the HERO ordinance?
The HERO, anything that's similar to the HERO ordinance, okay, that will try to be ushered into the Houston Independent School District.
Okay.
I think it's important that we have someone who believes in family values, morals, scruples, teaching our young boys how to be young men and our young ladies how to be young ladies, not having men in restrooms with little children or women for that factor matter. So I think it's important that the community realize that, District 2 realizes that. I think it's important that we get to some of the basics of back to men being men, women being women, children going to school to be educated, not just taught to a test. Children today, from the first day of school to the last day of school, they're taught to a test. And you know, when we were in school, we were taught reading, writing, arithmetic. We were taught phonics, and as a result of which, we got more of a thorough and balanced education. These kids, one of the reasons when they get to college, they have to take remediation is because they're only taught to a test. So now they're taking the first year or two in college, they're taking classes that do not count towards graduation. You say, well, what happened? You got a high school diploma. Well, they were taught to a test. They were taught test objectives only. And so we got to get with someone who's, when you're sick, you call on a doctor. You have sewage problems, you call for a plumber. You got car problems, you call for a mechanic. And if we have educational problems, we ought to call for an educator to come in to HISD and help straighten things out. And then this educator also happens to be a pastor of a church, so he brings morals, values, and scruples to the board also.
Well, thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to having you next time after the election.
Absolutely.
Want to hear about your successes. Any last minute?
Wish you luck, Pastor Williams. You're definitely a good man, and would love to see you on the school board.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and it was an honor to be here with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Ben Mendez, joined by my co-host, Mr. Javier Perez. And now we're going to talk to another candidate. Ms. Georgia Provost is running for City Council at Large, Position 1. Ms. Georgia Provost, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Ben.
Thank you, thank you.
It's
Now-
nice meeting you, sir.
Now,
It's great to have her. I remember her from her television commercials.
that's good. That's right. You were doing a dealership commercial, weren't you?
River Oaks Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram with Mr. Alan Helfman.
That's right. I remember that.
And I was just looking, Mr. Helpman is your treasurer.
He is.
That's great.
He and his family are my best friend. I call them my extended family
Well, great.
because they have really. It started with Mr. Old Man Helfman and
Uh-huh.
his wife, and it just trickled down to. big
So,
family.
for the viewer's sake, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. My parents moved to a little small town in Crosby, Texas, and I went to school at Charles R. Drew High School. And I was very active in school. I played basketball, ran track, I sang in the choir, I was a president, I was on the Honor Society. And then I went to Texas Southern University. But let's back up. I did the Interscholastic League at Prairie View for 4 years in mathematics and handwriting, and I won every year.
Wow.
Then I came to Texas Southern University as a dietetic major. And I met Mr. Provost, but during that time, I dropped out of school to be a professional model. Then I met Mr. Provost, and he wanted me to be his secretary. And I went and I said, oh, I'm on the wrong end of this camera. I need to be behind the camera instead of the front of the camera being pretty. So I changed my major. And he said, you really want to be a photographer? I said, yes. So he took me to Wyoming, Lexington, Indiana to photography school. We went to Canada, Kansas City. That's my story.
And then you ended up getting married.
Then I get married. And then I have a son, Jerome Provost, who is my chief photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And I adopt everybody's children, Ben. I got more children than old lady in the shoe. And I got about 35 grandkids. But I'm fortunate my son got married, and I have my own self 5-year-old grandson.
That's
Wow.
So, and I just
That's
love
fantastic.
young people.
great. And just so you know, she takes pictures of pretty much every political that you can think of, right?
Right?
So when you go to her business, you see pictures of all kinds of folks dating way back in the day. And as she said, her husband was in the photography business. So they have many pictures.
Well, we make 67 years. He started the business in 1948, and he was a good photographer. I don't know if you remember, when my husband came from Connecticut for photography school, he did his internship with Lawless and Son. They were the top commercial. Then he did his portrait with Giddens, Old Man Giddens. So he was the top photographer. And I tell you, it's been a lucrative business.
Can you remember some of the special photography sessions that you all had?
One special session was to take Andrew Young and then to go to these farms and take pictures of Governor Bush. Now, let me back up. My husband was the international championship tennis coach for Texas Southern University, 1968 to 1985. Nobody beat him in the SWAC, the NAIA, and the NCAA. And old man President Bush, would come twice a week because he was a tennis player. So he would come over to Texas Southern University and play tennis with my husband.
Wow.
And then when he started the tennis tournament, kids didn't really have money. Got money for football and basketball. So he started a tennis tournament and called it the Ebony Tennis Classic. Well, then we got a call from Johnson Publishing Company saying that we'd fly up there to Chicago because we couldn't use the name, so we changed it to Bayou Bend. And because we live right across the street from the Bayou. And so we did that, and we've had all kind of people like Don King, Bill Cosby, Andrew Young, President Carter, all these VIPs, and the number of people that you meet playing tennis was awesome. And when my husband took over the tennis program, Ben, there was no place for blacks to play tennis.
I believe it.
So he built his own tennis court, and in the back he built his clubhouse. He built the bar with the you know how they put the wine glasses and stuff, all that, so his boys could have what he called a country club atmosphere. So he was before his time. And
Interesting.
it's an interesting story. But and I didn't know anything about tennis. But my father always said, don't be around anything you don't know nothing about. So I learned tennis. My father worked at Humble Oil and Refinery, Ben, but he had 5 businesses because he said he wanted his kids to be independent and know how to run businesses. And then he wanted his kids to have work ethics. And I come from the country, so everything we raised, we ate. And my best educational experience is when I got the contract to photograph the students at Austin High School.
Is that right?
Mr. Baker was the principal,
Yeah.
and I took pictures every year that Mr. Baker was there. And that's how I was able to form a good relationship with the Hispanics, because we visit each other, we cook, and I just love when they cook Mexican food, man. I would put it in the freezer.
Javier doesn't like to eat.
Nah, I don't.
No, you don't like.
Nah, I'm kind of a little on the anorexic side.
So we just been close friends, and then HIS. I'm a former teacher, taught at E.O. Smith and Texas Southern University. So HIS were doing some terrible things. So what I did, I formed the Black and Brown Coalition for Education so that we can fight Greer. We filed a complaint with Ernie Duncan, OCR in Washington, the Attorney General, Eric Holden, the President, everybody we can think of. And when I tell you these Hispanics got together and we socked it to them. And what I keep trying to tell them, Ben, and you think about it, if blacks and the brown get together, we are the majority. We are no longer
Absolutely right.
the minority. And I don't like the word minority because minority means losers. And we are definitely not losers. And we need to get them to erase that completely away from us.
I would agree with that. And unfortunately, you know, we've tried to work together, and for some reason, it just doesn't happen. I don't know if it's because of the leadership or the community or what it is, but I've seen black-brown coalitions from way back in the day, Ben Reyes days, back in the day. And that was probably the best time that we saw a coalition with Mickey Leland and Barbara Jordan and all those folks. Those people, I really enjoyed those coalitions back then. Nowadays, it's just not
It's
happening.
different leadership.
Yeah.
You don't have the leadership that you had before.
And I would totally agree.
Now, Ben Reyes was not our city council person, but Ben Reyes would call my husband, of course, give me some people. Anything was going on at City Hall, Ben Reyes would let us know. We have projects now that they can't do nothing about because of Ben. Ben was an all around. He was, and we had our representative was Homer Ford, so he would come and do the same thing. And then we had Justin Robinson. But if it wasn't for Justin Robinson, Ben Reyes, and Homer Ford, we wouldn't have had anything, because Ben was just super. And I can imagine that. What I think the whole situation is, and I talk to him quite often, is that he had power, and people like Ben. Ben had a personality. You know, I knew his sons that was at Austin High School. And when you get in a leadership role and people are rallying behind you, I call that BAB, break a brother. And that's what they try to do. And they try to destroy the relationship that was going on. And we just got to build it back up. We can still, with my Black and Brown Coalition for Education, we still got it going on. And we're gonna prevail. Because every other week we would send President Obama a letter asking him to get rid of Ernie Duncan. Ernie Duncan was the problem. There are few public schools in Atlanta, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Chicago, because he want to bring in charter schools. I think charter schools are good, but that's another form of segregation. So finally, Ernie Duncan is gone. I don't know who they're going to put in there now. But
Be interesting.
But you know, Ben, let me tell you something. Being a former educator just like you, HISD is using our black and brown students as a marketing tool just for contracts. And we don't get none of the contracts. And it's something that needs to be done. And I don't understand how elected officials, community leaders, let them close all of our schools in our neighborhood and then fire over 900 professionally experienced black and brown teachers to bring in Teach America. They don't know. See, the problem with the school district is that they don't train their teachers to know our culture and our tradition. They just come in, and you can't come here from Wyoming and think you can teach black and brown kids. It's a special way. If you show a black and a brown child that you care for them, if they're making C's and D's, they're going to make A's and B's. And it's all it is. It's love. And they come in here for a paycheck. Teach America, pay their loans off to go to school. They ain't concerned about our kids.
Good
You know,
point.
I've had some contact with Teach for America kids, and I always saw a positive change when they went into a school. I'll give you, for instance, Black Middle School over in Oak Forest area. I think they had a real positive change when they went to the Teach for America kids. And to tell you the truth, after they left, I saw I guess a decrease in the quality of education there. I did, and that's just from the teachers. And believe me, we have some teachers out there that have no business teaching.
Well, now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're all bad, but those that they sent to my schools were bad because they stay about 2 or 3 weeks, and they gone, and it's no stability.
Yeah.
And that's what's wrong with our schools. It's
You know,
no
and
stability.
that's a good point, because I know after they do their 2 years, they're gone. They're out of there. Yeah.
And it's just, I know we're not talking about my race, but education is a passion for me. And let's just take Jack Yates High School. For 60 years, they only had 6 principals.
That's stability.
The school would be
That is
90 years
stability.
old in February. Greer brought a principal named Coleman to Yates High School who never was a principal, but he was his special ed director when he was in San Diego, and they put him at Yates. And they bring the elementary and middle school principals to Yates. And then they take all the programs out of Yates and bring them to another school. And then they expect for the school to survive.
So what do you think of my idea of having night school?
Well, we had night school when I came to Houston. It was Houston Night High School.
Yeah.
You got kids now that parents have to work. Some of them got to work, but they're off in the evening, so they have night school. Nobody brought this idea up because they're not about education. HISD is not about teaching and learning. It's about contracts and tearing your school down to see what developer they're going to give them the most money. So HISD really is in the real estate business. Look at it.
Well, they do own a lot of property.
Thank you. They're in more business than my son, Jared Womack. He's in the real estate. He got more property than Jared Womack.
So let's talk about the issues at the city level. As you know, pensions is a big issue. And everybody's talking about, well, firefighters and police officers and then the municipal employees, they all have 3 different pensions. And we have a lot of problems financially at the city. What is your take on the pension system?
Well, the firemen have the best one because their pension come out of Austin. But when I went to talk to them, I ran in 2013, which was a tough race, 12 of us in a race, and I ended up in a runoff. So I had a chance to go and talk to them, Ben. And they told me that the mayor spent $1 million with a lobbyist to go to Austin to try to dismantle their pension plan. So I thought that was mighty stupid. You take the $1 million, invest it, and put all of it in a pension plan. And the other ones, I understand that the police got a nice pension plan now, but what they need to do, Ben, is put the representatives from the fire department, fire already got one, from the police and employees in a room with their lawyer and their negotiator, and they negotiate what they want. Don't leave them out and the city council members make the decision for them. Because what people don't understand and don't know, firefighters and policemen do not get Social Security. They don't get that. So get in a room and sit down, bring the police and the employees in a room, and y'all talk about it and negotiate, and let them come up with the best solution.
Why is it that they don't get Social Security?
I don't know, but I know they don't get Social Security. I haven't checked why. I guess because they get a pension that they fighting over right now.
And that's exactly the same thing with teachers, right? Teachers don't get Social Security either.
I hadn't heard that one.
I hadn't heard that. I was a teacher. I got my retirement.
But through Social Security?
No.
Or was a different pension?
For my pension,
Yeah.
from teaching.
Yeah.
But, and then you say the city don't have any money. Well, it's simple, Ben. Just go from department to department. Get an outside auditor to come in audit all them departments. And like Homer Ford used to say, and like Ben Reyes used to say, you're going to find some hidden money. They got plenty of money down there. Just get an auditor, go from this department, that department, and audit, and you're going to find the money.
And so in your opinion, did the mayor do a good job?
Good job doing what?
Of running the city?
Well, I wouldn't give her a good job. I'm disappointed because she served 6 years as a council member, 6 years as a controller, 6 years as a mayor. we shouldn't be in financial problems. You had 18 years
Mm-hmm.
to get it right. In the period behind what I just said.
You know, and I agree with you. I agree with you, Ms. Provost. That is, you know what? It seems like she was more concerned about getting Hero Pass than working on the $130 million shortfall we're going to have next year. You know, I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. How we could just ignore that, just play politics.
So let's talk about you and your opponent. Now, obviously, you're in a runoff, and there was 10 candidates? Six candidates. And so now you two are, I'm assuming, fighting for whatever is left between the 4 candidates that are no longer in the race. So what is the strategy? Because you have a huge district. I mean, this is citywide. There's no way that you can attend every event, go to all the meetings that are out there. So what is the strategy for when you're running at large?
Well, the strategy is to be able to have worked in those communities. See, you have a lot of people running for office, and the only person know them is them and their family. But when you say the provost's name, you associate me with tennis, you associate me with photography, you associate me being the president of PTA, you associate me being on the fight for Hispanics and blacks and whites and whoever got a good fight, I'm in it, you know, all over the city to make sure everybody get the just and right. So when you and that's how I'm handling this. And then the TV commercial helped me a lot, you know. So you just got to be visible, you know, and I have been visible. And my pet peeve is my university, Texas Southern University. This 56 years I've been supporting them. And I tell people we're the only HBCU in town, and you need to give some money. So I know I can't cover all the territory, but I have people in all those different communities, like Kingwood, Maryland. You know, I got customers. Friends. And I make friends. When you from Louisiana and been having a parent like my parents who taught you to hug everybody you see, because people go all day long without a hug, and find something good to compliment somebody on. And if you see somebody needs something, you know, the Lord blessed me with a lot of skills and talent, and I try to help as many people as I can because I don't want him to take it from me. So I utilize them. I don't ask you, I can just see. If you need something, boom. If I got it, you go get it. And I got a huge resource bank. I don't try to know everything. I don't try to profess that I know everything. But I know I can call Alan Helfman. I know I can call Mr. Roseman. I know I can call 50 or 60 more people to say, look, and that's in different fields. And some of them I'm going to call that got all these degrees and these disciplines, and they ain't doing nothing with them. So I'm going to put them to work. And it's just like the police. You know, they've complained about the police, and I praise Mr. Ray Hunt, who's the president of the union. Excellent president. And I'm saying, just go talk to him. His doors is always open. We can solve a whole lot of problems if we communicate with people. And I have some solutions for that. Number one, Alan Helfman tried to get the chief to have the police officer to go have lunch with the kids in school. Because the students know where everything at. They know where the dope house is at. They know who's doing illegal stuff. And I told the chief it works for me. 6 years I was a den mother at Lockhart, 2-year president at Ryan, 4-year president at Jack Yates. That's 12 years. I knew every policeman, and every one of those policemen ate lunch at Lockhart, Ryan, and yes, we didn't have no burglars, we didn't have no kids. All this thing they were doing in Third Ward was shoplifting. And then I had a court for that showing about shoplifting. And it worked. And then you got all those police officers sitting behind the desk that's been trained. Put them on the street and bring some of the retired police officers that's sitting at home getting dementia. Bring them back to work. They already been trained. They already know what's going on. See, we got to have a better way of communicating. We're going to have to put all of our disagreements down, all our religious denominations behind us, party affiliations behind us, and race behind us. And we all just need to get together and let's make this city, not this time we're going to be number 3, because we're number 4. Why we can't fight to be number 1? All of us get together and make this city right. Be like a family. And stop all this separation that we're doing. Like right now, the race now in the city, it's divided. It's a Republican against Democrat, and it's supposed to be nonpartisan. So we need to just stop fighting each other. Because we need to clean, first of all, the city needs to be clean. And number 2, we need to get rid of some of this crime. And what they don't understand, crime comes from poverty, uneducation, unemployment, uncontrolled kids, and unprepared parents. Now that's what causes crime. Until we get those together, and we need to partner with the school district. When you got kids dropping out of school in the 8th grade, Ben, they done lost the interest.
No, I would agree with
Absolutely.
that. We've lost a lot of kids, even before 8th grade, some even 6th grade, 7th grade.
So that means you're not the teachers and not keeping them in it. You and I went to school, we was fighting to get up in the morning to try to get to school fast. So what's the problem?
I think things were a little different back in the day.
Yeah.
Back then the principal could give you a little swat and take care of business, and nowadays you can't touch the
Well, like
kids.
I tell them, my son rather the police to stop him than to come home with his parents. And that's the way it was. But we got a lot of work to do, you know, and one person don't know. You have so many people with skills and talent that they don't tap. And then we only got about 400 more days before thousands and thousands of people going to be in our community for the Super Bowl. I don't want no crime. I don't want them folks to keep seeing on the news that they scared to come to Houston because of this and that and the other. I want them when they come, they relax and enjoy themselves. And hope, no, Texans would be nice if they was in the Super Bowl. But we got our year coming.
Well, we've run out of time. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy with the campaign.
But I'm not that busy to come sit with my friends.
There you go.
So we'll see you after the
Ms.
election.
Georgia, good luck in the election.
And good luck.
I thank you very kindly. And I love both of you, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
We'll be back next week. It's live television every Monday night at 6 p.m. We'll see you.